Hi folks, welcome to the weekend. You have to forgive my voice, it's gone a bit croaky. I trust that you've had a good week, and we'll get to what I've read in a moment. But first, let me tell you that the inaugural SciFiScavenger survey of our collective favourite science fiction books is now officially closed. Thank you to everyone that took the time to think through what their choices might be and to complete the survey. There's about 170 of you, and I think that will be sufficient critical mass for a useful survey. And I'm really looking forward to compiling the results and analysing you all thoroughly. So what have I been reading? I listened to The Many-Coloured Land by Julian on audiobook, and I long thought that this was a fantasy series, just judging by the covers, as you are not supposed to do. But it turns out it is in fact science fiction, albeit possibly towards the lighter end. We're in the 22nd century, I think it is, and at some point in the past, the aliens have staged an intervention in our darker years, and we're now part of something called the Galactic Milieu, a conglomerate society, and humans are now firmly ensconced on hundreds of colony worlds around the galaxy. Telepathy, mind control and telekinesis are a thing now. They're latent powers that some humans have now developed with the help of some of our alien chums. But many people hark back to simpler, more challenging times. Less coddled, perhaps, less easy. Handily enough for them, in rural France, there is a portal back to the Pliocene epoch, 6 million odd years ago. There is a catch, however, it's one way. There's no way back. You can come back, but you'll crumble to dust as the 6 million years of time travel grinds you into your constituent atoms. There's a long period of introductions to various characters as quite an ensemble cast, and it does finally get down to some business about a third of the way in, I think. And by this point, there have been decades of time travellers going back on their one-way journey to the Pliocene. The big question is what exactly awaits the latest batch that we've got to know in the first third of the book. What kind of society will be waiting for them? Is there any society? Have we gone feral? Or is there some kind of feudal arrangement going on? Will there be a king? Will there be a queen? How will society be run? Will they be welcomed? Will they be robbed? All of these questions plague our cast of characters. What will be waiting for them on the other end? Much more than they bargained for is the answer, and I won't give anything more away. I really enjoyed the descriptions of the flora and megafauna waiting for them in the Pliocene. I thought that was great. And there were plenty of the characters that I quite liked. I wanted to know how they got on. And knowing nothing of the plot, I was as surprised as they were by what they found in the Pliocene when they got there. I enjoyed well enough the basic thrust of the plot thread, the various alliances, and the, without giving the game away, feudal society, with a difference that they find when they get there. Only the first book is available in audiobook in the UK, it seems, and whilst I do have the other three on my shelves, I don't know how quickly I'll get to the others. I've got lots of other books that I really want to read before I think I would get to the others. So I suppose that says something about how much I enjoyed this. It was good, but not sufficiently compelling enough to make me really desperate to read the next one yet. Anyway. Next, I read The Man in the Maze by the saintly Robert Silverberg. Richard Muller is the sole inhabitant of the planet Lemnos, and he's been living in a complex and deadly labyrinth, the maze of the title, for 9 years. And the book gradually reveals to us why he's there, and why he's needed by humanity once more for another risky encounter with even higher stakes this time. With the free expenditure of droids and not a small amount of men, Muller is finally reached at the centre of the maze. Ned Rawlins is a young, idealistic man. He's the son of an old friend of Muller, that being his in to a conversation with him. And he's tasked, this young Ned guy, is tasked with persuading Muller to come out of the maze by any means, fair or foul, so that he can be set on his mission. I enjoyed the descriptions of the labyrinth, and I thought Muller was an interesting character, particularly when it becomes clear exactly what his affliction is that he picked up in his first encounter with a different set of aliens. But I suppose I would say this isn't my favourite Silverberg by any means, but I enjoyed it well enough. And I gather it's based on a Greek play, but being poorly educated in the classics, I can tell you literally nothing about it. I liked the interactions between Rawlins and Muller, and I liked Rawlins' discomfort with having to lie to Muller and the steps he eventually takes to deal with that guilt. And I liked the gradual reveals in the book. And there's a few of them, including the affliction that Muller suffers from. And of course, it's written by Silverberg, so the prose is excellent. Next, I read Why Call Them Back from Heaven by Clifford Simak. This is my second ever Simak, and more vintage roughage in my science fiction reading diet this month, and not the last one either. We're in the future, I don't recall how far now, and the Forever Centre, a massive corporation, owns the world, essentially. And that ownership is all off the back of a promise of immortality for humanity. At the end of our first life, or near the end of it, we can be frozen on a promise of later being defrosted and given back our youth again and again and again. And the Forever Centre has accumulated wealth on that premise. Long-term storage is, after all, an expensive business. Nearly everyone in the world has become obsessed with saving and investing enough to support their future long lives. If you thought that saving for retirement was a chore, then you ain't seen nothing yet. Our current lives, as a result, are diminished, curtailed and depressed in favour of the long game, the promised future. People live in relative poverty, they have very few possessions, it's all very utilitarian. Lots of people work for the Forever Centre. Forever Centre has a lot to lose and it's ruthless in protecting it. Justice is dispensed quickly, immediate and implacable, and it's doled out by AI judges and magistrates. Dan Frost, our protagonist, is an executive at the Forever Centre and he's relatively comfortably off, but he inadvertently finds that he's now a threat to Forever Centre, just accidentally. And as a result, he is tried and sentenced to being ostracised. He's branded on his forehead and on his cheeks and is therefore isolated. He's reduced in this society to begging and theft to survive. But there is help available to him from unexpected sources. I enjoyed the really contrasting takes on immortality from corporate and from religious perspectives. And I enjoyed the way that Simak has us all living minimal, hard lives on a promise, much like the church of old. And I enjoyed Frost's journey in the book and the people that he meets along the way, the holies, so-called capital H, who are mainly engaged in daubing graffiti, anti-Forever Centre graffiti on the walls. And I enjoyed the suggestions that the proverbial emperor, the Forever Centre, might not be wearing any clothes, that the promise may actually be an empty one. I liked it and I enjoyed it more probably than the Silverberg, a little bit to my surprise. So tell me, what have you been reading this week? Is there anything that you'd recommend? Do let us know in the comments down below. As always, I'm always really happy to hear from you. Channel stuff next then. Subs are at 3,624, which is up 49 on last week. That's a pretty good week. And I'm wondering now if we can get to 4,000 by the end of the year. So do tell your friends. If you're one of those 49, or if you've just stumbled upon my channel for the first time today, then a huge welcome to you. I'm John and I focus on collecting, reading and chatting about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Richard, my channel twin. He and I both started our YouTube channels at about the same time in April last year. Anyway, he commented on my mysteries video from last weekend and mentioned that he'd recently read an Adam Roberts book, The Real Town Murders, which I was interested to hear about because that book is set in my hometown. It was originally going to be called The Our Town Murders, but his publishers didn't like that and they made these slightly nonsensical Real Town Murders instead. It's called Our Town because it's set in Reading, which is my hometown, or at least for the last 30 years or so. And there is also a sequel, the only one in a long line of solo singleton novels by Mr. Adam Roberts. Thank you to Richard for taking the time to leave a comment and to the rest of you that have done the same. I always appreciate it. It's one of the main joys of running this channel. Let's take a quick look at what was on the channel. On Sunday, there was that sci-fi mysteries video that I was referring to. And in that we take a look at 10 really great science fiction books that have at their heart a mystery, typically a murder mystery, honestly, and the different settings that science fiction might provide an author. I really enjoyed putting that one together. It hasn't done especially well, but it's trucking along and it will get views. And on Tuesday, there was a bonus extra book haul. For the last number of months, I've been running at one book haul video a month, but I just couldn't cram these particular books into my regular monthly book haul because it would just been too long. And I wanted to focus this one on my dealer visit, my visit down to Bob's down in Dorset a couple of weeks ago. And there's very specifically an offer for viewers of this channel contained in that video. So if you haven't seen it and you might be interested in bagging some copies of Interzone Science Fiction magazine at a reduced price, then do give it a watch. Talking of book buying, after a very profligate few weeks, I have been the very model of restraint in the last week. Just 1 or 2 books were purchased. Actually, it was 3. No, four books, some of which have not even arrived yet. So my to be hauled pile is currently just 1 book, or there was only 1 book until I popped to my local Oxfam bookshop at lunchtime today to see if I could get any more of the lovely science fiction books I got last week. And I'm happy to say that yet more of them were back on the shelves. And so I've added approximately 20 books to that little pile. What have I watched this week? I've watched Matt at Bookpilled ranking the 60 books that he's read this year. And actually, I plan to do something similar myself before the year is out. I was amused in that video to see him rank Project Hail Mary without saying a single word about it and just putting it in the F rank, the bottom rank. He hated it. Well, and that's entirely his prerogative, of course. I actually quite liked it. I think it was one of my favourite books last year. So I don't know what that says about him or me. But it just goes to show that we don't all have to like the same things. I like the way that Matt reviews his books, he's got a very erudite way with words, much more than I do. And talking of epic, Ira at Science Fiction Words of Wonder had an epic book haul during the week, and that included a raid on a bookshop which became a vintage science fiction buying frenzy, the sort of manic book buying that I can get behind. And at one point he was having nightmares about the books that he might have left behind on the shelves and had to go back for a second look, and I know exactly how he might have felt. But that's a really good haul, and it's well worth a watch. Let's take a look ahead, and in the very near term it's going to be a little bit slim pickings, I think. Work has been a bit busy recently, and I haven't been able to loaf around thinking about what I'm going to make for YouTube videos in the way that I sometimes have been able to do. And as a result, I've got a bit behind on the content creation malarkey, and the video cupboard is almost bare right now. I do have another really good book haul to go. That's a really good one. There's 57 books in that haul. And if I get nothing else done between now and then, that will appear on Sunday afternoon UK time. I have made some more progress on the Ian Banks Culture novels ranking video. I think there are 9 books, and I've thought about what I want to say about 3 of them, so I've still got quite a bit of work to do, and I haven't recorded it yet. I might get that done for Sunday, but if not, it will appear during the week after the book haul. Longer range, I have the survey to compile now and turn into a video, and there might be more than one video out of that. Certainly I'll do the top 25 or whatever it is that makes sense to do out of that video, but there could be some curiosities and obscurities in there, and some interesting statistical anomalies that might be worth a quick video at some point as well. Judging by the recent poll that I did on the community tab, it seems that many of you would like to see a video, something along the lines of a top 10 of hard science fiction. And I'll do that at some point. And I also have in the back of my head a longer video looking at 100 years of space opera. It's about 100 years since the likes of Doc Smith were churning out Lensman books and so on. So I like the fact that it's 100 years, and I like a bit of space opera. So I'm going to combine those two things into one. I suspect will be quite a long video. That might not actually appear until the new year, because I think it might take a little while to get it together. So what will I be reading this coming week? On audiobook, I'm currently listening to Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. I'm about, 20% in, and I'm enjoying it very much so far. I should finish this tomorrow. I've got a long run, a 6-hour run in the countryside tomorrow, and I should be listening to the rest of it. I've got about 5.5 hours of listening left to do. So all things being equal, and assuming my headphones batteries last the distance, then I will finish that on my run tomorrow. And I'm almost out of Spotify audiobook jail, so I should be able to finish Empire in Black and Gold possibly on Sunday, but certainly in the early part of next week, if I can remember what was going on. And then in physical book, I'm about no more than 20% through China Mountain Zhang by Maureen McHugh, and I don't know what to think about this book at the moment, other than the fact that I'm certainly enjoying it, and I'm very keen to see what happens. It's certainly a very unique vision of what the US might have been like if Chinese Marxism was in the ascendance in the 20th century rather than capitalism. But I mean, I'm really enjoying it. And then, assuming I finish that, then I'm going to read The Rift by Nina Allen. And if I get through that, and I very well might not, then we'll see. After this one, I've got 3 books left on my TBR for November. So I might be able to jam an extra book or 2 in. As always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, goodbye for now.